talk about nafs. And we want to talk about ma'rifat nafs, knowing oneself and understanding oneself. And not just because this knowledge is the most fundamental knowledge in Islam. You know, a lot of times when we talk to people about Islam, especially ulama, but also those of us who are in the community too, right? Because this religion is built by the awliya, built by the ulama. So the approach we take in introducing religion to people is usually one that's very legalistic or attached to kalam and to ideology, to theology. And so a lot of times when we talk to people about religion, we come from that point of view. Whereas in the environment where we are, in North America, in the society where we are, it might be better to start with the needs and the desires of human beings, the wants of human beings, in order to, in this way, take them down the road and introduce them to religion from this point of view. And so this year what I was thinking that we could speak about was this ma'rifat nafs, but not just knowledge of the self, because it's such a general and wide-ranging topic. What I was thinking was what we definitely need to talk about is this term shakhsiyat. In Persian, shakhsiyat, in Arabic, shakhsiya. It means, if you translate it into Arabic, from Arabic into English, it means an individual. It means a somebody, a someone. But it also has a tinge of the meaning of reputation, or of respect, or of social standing also. And that's like the beautiful thing about Eastern languages. With one word, we can express a number of related meanings. Whereas in English, I have to give you a sentence just to cover that one particular aspect of that word. So we'll begin by defining shakhsiyat, but before we do, the reason I think it's important for us to discuss this issue, there's a number of reasons why we have to talk about shakhsiyat, or another definition for it, identity. So one reason we have to talk about shakhsiyat, one reason that we have to talk about identity, is because the movement of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam is one that is built on this issue of shakhsiyat, of identity, of character, of personality, of maqam, position in society. This issue of shakhsiyat is fundamental to the movement of Imam Hussein. And so just to make it very clear to you, we'll get into it a little bit deeper as the days go by, inshallah. But just for taqrib al-dhihn, just as an introduction, what was the big issue here between Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam and Yazid? The big issue here was that Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam did not feel that the identity of a Yazid, that the personality of a Yazid was good for the position and the identity of Khilafat. In addition to that, Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam did not see an identity like his own, a personality like his own, submitting and going under the identity of someone like a Yazid. So this issue of identity and personality and individuality is something, so to speak, right? So just as an example, as an Iraqi or as an Irani or as a Pakistani or as an Indian, we're comfortable with that identity, right? And that's wonderful. And that's something that we need. We need people to be accepting and respecting and valuing their own identity. But for our younger generation, what I like to call this bridge generation, those who have parents from other countries, or they themselves may have been born and spent a certain amount of their time in another country, but then they came here. These are that bridge generation. That generation that can bridge two worlds, the East and the West. And so, from this point of view, this generation is very important to us in the progress of Islam in North America, for the growth of Islam in North America. This generation of people is vitally important to us. I mean, look at the best ulama that we have in the country. The best ulama that we have in the country, like Sayyid Abidi that we have here, and other ulama around the country, what makes them different from the vast majority of ulama that we have in the country, or what makes them different from other ulama that we have in the country, is the fact that they are attempting to bridge this gap that exists between these two cultures. And the better a bridge that person is, the more successful they are in the work that they have to do here. So this is very important. We're losing a lot of our youth because our youth are stuck between two worlds. You know, so sometimes we find like within themselves, and it's not just young people. We want to make that very clear from the beginning too. We often say, oh, it's young people that are trying to figure out who they are. Who am I, and what's my identity, and where am I going? And we often make fun of teenagers or young people and say, Baba, what do you mean? Who are you? You're so-and-so. It says so on your ID card. We know who you are. And what he's trying to figure out who you are for. But it's not just young people trying to figure out who they are and where they fit in. And these two things are very much closely related. Who we are and what we are to do are two very related things. We're sitting here in North America trying to figure out, what are we supposed to do? We have a lot of imkanat and a lot of wasa'il and a lot of potential. And now we're trying to figure out, how do we use that potential and what are we supposed to do with it? And one thing that can help us figure out what we're supposed to do is to first figure out, who are we? Because these two questions, they're closely related to each other. And if we're going to help the youth also, the young people also, to get to be comfortable as bridges between two worlds, to take pride in being Muslim and American. Because it seems as though traditionally there's been some kind of problem reconciling these two sides of us. The American side of us and the Muslim side of us. And sometimes some of us get this crazy idea in our head that they're mutually exclusive. Yani, you have to choose one or the other. If you're going to be an American, then you're going to be an American. And if you're going to be a Muslim, then you can't have any tinge of Americanness with you, for instance, right? So we have to reconcile this schizophrenia that exists within our youth. And this is another reason we have to talk about this issue of identity, this issue of personality, this issue of character. But finally, there's another issue that makes it necessary for us to discuss this. Not just our individual identity, because this is very important. Yani, who I am as a person, who you are as a person, what's your identity? That's very important to understand and come to recognize. But just as important is the identity that we give to our communities. The identity that is assumed by our communities in North America. And this is another reason why we have to discuss this issue of shakhsiyat, of identity, of personality, of this understanding of who we are and its effect on what we have to do, insha'Allah. So send a salat and we'll begin, insha'Allah. Salawat. So before I take my glasses out of my pocket, I looked all over for my professional glasses and I couldn't find them. And I keep brightly colored glasses where I work at so that I can find them easily in the dirt and grime. So, yeah, I've got purple glasses. It makes them easy to find at work, but a little strange to wear when you're giving a speech, so forgive me, inshallah. I got the Barney glasses. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Khair. So let's begin by defining this word shakhsiyat. Because if we were going to use the English equivalent, we'd have to say 2 or 3 sentences every time we say the word. So we're going to stick with the Arabic/Persian version so that we can quickly go over the things we have to go over. Shakhsiyat. So this word shakhs, which is what the word derives from, it's masdar, right? It means an individual, a person, a someone, or a somebody. The verb shakhasa yakhshaso, it means to tower over or to ascend over something. And this is very telling about the term shakhsiyat, right? Which means personality or identity. That this identity has to be something towering and ascending, something elevating for us. A lot of times do we view ourselves that way when we conceptualize of our own identity? Do we accept ourselves as someone and somebody deserving to be on the rise, on the ascent, to be up and coming? There's a saying of Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, that can make this word, this noun, shakhsiyat, which means individuality, personality, identity, or character, that can make it very clear for us. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, in Nahj al-Balagha, Sermon 102, he says something just so beautifully. He says, Al-alimu man arafa qadrahu, wa kafa bil mar'i jahlan alla tarafa qadra. The real alim, the real knowledgeable person, is the person who understands his own value. The person who understands their own value, they're the real alim. And ignorance is enough, or is the inheritance, or ignorance is the state of the person who doesn't understand his own value. Yani Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wasalam is talking about qadr shanasi, that we should understand our own value, our own worth. And this isn't something that we speak of frequently enough in Islam. If somebody sits down and was just to learn about Islam from the TV or from the information that's readily available around them, they'd think like, wow, like Islam doesn't respect, not just doesn't it respect human life, but it doesn't respect human identity either. When in fact, nothing could be further from the truth. Individuality, personality, identity in Islam, and according to this hadith of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, is something sacrosanct, is something holy, is something inviolable in Islam. So this understanding of shakhsiyat, of our identity, is very important. Let's introduce it by mentioning a few hadith, inshallah, so that we can begin to understand how much Allah values us. Because that's really our aim. There's a lot of different types of identity. So there's one type of identity that we're given when we're born. It's the responsibility of every Muslim parent to give their child a good name. So they give their child a good name. This is part of their identity now, right? That's their name. We go, we record that name with the state, we get a social security card. We get an ID card. This is part of an identity too, right? You get an ID card. You might even pick up a nickname that they call you around the house. It's part of our identity, right? That's who we are. Part of our identity also, we create it, don't we? So as we grow, as we develop, as we mature, our ideas and our thoughts, even about ourselves, grow and develop and evolve also. So to a great extent, we create our own identity also. That's part of our identity. And I mean, a very obvious example of that is like somebody like me. My name isn't Nuruddin. When they got to buy my ticket to come out here, or if the cops pull me over, they're not going to call me by Nuruddin. And there's a reason why I never changed my name legally. It's the name my mother gave me. I like that name. It's the identity that my mother chose for me. I got no problem with that name. But it does make it a little bit easier in the masjid. He called me brother. Brothers gave me Brother Nuruddin 20-something years ago when I became Muslim, and it stuck and it stayed, and alhamdulillah, it's part of my identity today. But we create our own identity also, isn't it? Huh? To a great extent. What we want to talk about in these days that we're together is the identity that Allah has given us. To understand and to value and to understand the worth of the identity that Allah has given to us upon our creation. Understanding this identity can make it clear for us also what is expected from us, and what we're supposed to do here. Because these are questions that all of us are faced with. Look, I know you've heard me say this many times before, but I'm going to say it over and over again. There is no difference between me and you and the people outside of here. The cats that you go to school with, the people you work with, your neighbors. Every human being is looking for the same thing. Love, acceptance, respect, purpose, identity. These are things that every human being wants. And there's no exception in that. Everybody that surrounds us in the world is looking that their identity should be accepted and respected. Everyone needs a purpose. I mean, just to show you how important purpose is, since I've been here, everybody's been asking, oh, you're from Florida. What about the hurricane in Florida? Did it do anything to you guys in Florida? But unfortunately, no. I'm pro-hurricane. I'm probably a closet anarchist. I want the hurricane to come. I want it to destroy everything. Why? Because people are better when things are bad. If everybody's house gets destroyed, then we learn how to live together. Because we ain't got no place to live now. If everybody loses everything that they own, then there's no competition over material belongings anymore. Because nobody has anything. So I love hurricane. I want hurricane to come and I want hurricane to destroy. It's good for the economy. Unemployment goes away. Crime goes down. It's statistically proven, and this is the point I want to make, that suicide goes down in a society that is gripped by tribulation. The suicide rate falls. Why? You'd think that the harder things get, the worse things get, the badder the environment becomes, then suicide levels should go up. No. When things are bad, people feel needed. People feel wanted. If a hurricane came through San Jose now and destroyed the place, everybody would find a place to feel needed, to feel valued. And thus, in bad circumstances, suicide rate goes down because we find a place where we're accepted and needed and valued. And that, after all, is what every human being is looking for. And it's not just us as Muslims or as Shias or as followers of Ahl Bayt. It's everyone around us too. And instead of trying to go and convince these guys about Tawheed or Nubuwwat or Adl Ilahi or Imamat or Qiyamat, but we'll go and tell them, look, you need love. You need respect. You need to be accepted. You need an identity and you need a purpose. And they'll say, man, you're right. And in this way, little by little, we can lead them right to the source of ilaj and the cure for the disease that each and every one of us is afflicted with. So we have to understand and to breach these issues of shakhsiyat and identity. So some hadith qudsi, salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in a hadith qudsi, al-mu'minu a'zamu hurmatan min al-mala'ikat al-muqarrabin. He says that the believer is greater in respect than those close angels to Allah. Malaikat al-Muqarrabin. Those close angels. The mu'min is greater in respect than these close angels. We're talking about Israel and Jibreel and those who hold the arsh and those who do the hamd and the thana of Allah, the praise of Allah night and day around the arsh. The mu'min is more respected than those angels in the eyes of Allah. Allah says in the same hadith Qudsi, Al-mu'minu a'zamu hurmatan min al-bayt al-haram. Min bayt al-haram. The mu'min is more respected than the Kaaba. I mean, Kaaba, that everybody has a picture of Kaaba in their house. Kaaba, who we all bow down towards and make ruku towards and make sajda towards. It's the symbol of Islam. Allah says that the mu'min is more respected than the Kaaba. I mean, look at the hurmat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to the human being. Raised the human being up to a very high level. And this respect, it continues in a variety of ways. Like this verse that we mentioned when we read the khutbah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. So this hadith al-Qudsi that I just read for you a little while ago, it's talking about mu'min, right? That the mu'min is more respected than the close angels of Allah. Or that the mu'min is more respected than the house of Allah, the Kaaba. In the Quran, Allah is saying, we have honored Bani Adam. And he's talking about all human beings. Now it's not mu'min or ghayre mu'min. Now it's not believer and disbeliever. Allah said He has honored all human beings. You know, a lot of times we as Muslims or we as Shias, we tend to, na'udhu billah, sometimes look down on others, huh? We feel like because we're Muslim, so we're better than the non-Muslim. Or because we're Shia, we're better than the non-Shia. Maybe because we're born Muslim, so we're better than the convert. And it can go the other way too, huh? Sometimes convert can feel like, because he's convert, well then he's better than the born Muslim. We can get wrapped up with this takabbur and this feeling of arrogance. But here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I've honored all human beings. Believer and disbeliever, no matter where you're from, Allah has honored all the human beings. This is something that really raises our level up. So, one thing that we can take from this then, figuring out our taklif, as we just said, figuring out our taklif, figuring out what is our duty, especially in relation to ourselves, our individual selves, and to our community, something very difficult to do. So perhaps we should start by understanding what is that identity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. And a lot of times we might read these verses of Quran but not really recognize what they signify. So let's begin where Ayatollah Mazahiri begins. Ayatollah Mazahiri has a discussion that he gives about shakhsiyat, has a discussion where he talks about the identity of the human being from the point of view of irfan, from the point of view of mysticism, from the point of view of philosophy. What is the identity of the human being? And the first verse of Quran that Ayatollah Mazahiri makes reference to is this verse of Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the angels, surely I'm going to place in the earth a khalifa, and he orders the angels to bow down to that khalifa. Send a salawat. Let's read that verse together, inshallah. So it's Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 30. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. So when your Lord said to the angels, surely I'm going to place in the earth a khalifa. This verse of khilafat, that Allah tells the angels, I'm going to place in the earth a khalifa. Do we know what khilafat means? Khilafat mean what? Anybody can volunteer it for me? What's khilafat mean? Let's get the audience involved so you don't fall asleep. I don't want you to fall asleep on me. I know I'm exceptionally boring. Who knows? What does khilafat mean? Can anybody tell me? Janishin, says a brother. That's true. It is a janishin. But for the rest of us, it means representation. Right? Khilafat means representation. This is important to understand the point I'm going to make. Because this is the same point that Allama Tabatabai makes in Tafsir al-Mizan. When Allah says He's going to place in the earth a representative, so understand what it means, this representation. I'll give you an example. When America appoints an ambassador to another country, let's just say we send an ambassador to, I don't know, Singapore. Ambassador goes to Singapore, right? This ambassador in Singapore speaks with the weight and the authority of the United States government. He represents the United States of America in Singapore. His residence is considered a piece of the United States of America that's just outside of the country. I mean, isn't that what an embassy is? The residence of a consul or the residence of an ambassador, it's respected on that level. Khilafat for the human being is also similar to this. Allama Tabatabai says, this khilafat demands that if we're representing Allah, then we also have to possess all of the sifat, all of the attributes that Allah possesses and has, and we have to manifest those also, and we have to have all of the powers that Allah also has. And we don't often think of ourselves in this light. We don't ever consider ourselves of ever having this potential. But this is exactly what khilafat means. And some of our biggest ulama, Ayatollah Mazahari, Allama Tabatabai, all of these ulama have mentioned that this khilafat that Allah mentions in Quran demands that the human being have every sifat that Allah also has. So let's give some examples. When we study in kalam, in aqaid, in ideology, the sifat of Allah, the attributes of Allah, we always start with what? Allah is qadir. As an example, right? Qadir, mukhtar, hayyu, alim. We list out maybe about 4, 5, 6, 7 of the very basic, attributes of Allah. Allah is qadir. Allah is powerful. Right? But we are also powerful. There's things that we can do. And we also have power, and we're probably the most powerful being in this realm. So we have power also. Allah is knowledgeable, right? We have knowledge also. Allah is alive. We're alive also. Every sifat, you go and you pull out, a lot of people have the picture, the little poster with the 99 names of Allah all listed out on it. Go, take a look at it. We have every one of those sifat also, with one exception. We have all the sifat that Allah has, all the powers that Allah has, but there's just one difference between our sifat, our attributes, and the attributes of Allah. The attributes of Allah are dhati. They're essential. They are part and parcel of Allah. Our sifat, our attributes, they're arazi. They're additional onto our essence. So just to make it very clear to you what I mean. We just said that Allah is powerful, right? For sifat al-dhati, to show that this power is part and parcel of the essence of Allah, we could also say Allah is power. Instead of saying Allah is alive, we could say Allah is life. Instead of saying Allah is knowledgeable, we could say Allah is knowledge. Yani, in the purest sense of the word. And this is just for taqrib al-dhihn, just to make our minds understand it, right? Our sifat, our attributes aren't like that. Because today I know a little something, but tomorrow I fall down, I bump my head, and I got early onset amnesia. Now I don't know nothing. So he's still a human being, but he's not a knowledgeable human being, right? We can have a human being that just happens to be dead. This can happen. A dead person is still a human being, but they don't have the attribute of life anymore. A human being can be very powerful and strong in their youth, but they get older and they lose that strength and that power. They're still a human being, but we wouldn't describe them as powerful anymore, right? So these attributes, these sifat, these characteristics that we have, they're not really our own. We get them from Allah. And Allah owns those sifat. They belong to Him. But that's the only difference. All those sifat He has, we also have those sifat. All those attributes and characteristics that Allah has, we also have those characteristics. And we have to have those characteristics. Otherwise, we're not really Khalifa. Otherwise, we cannot ever be doing khilafat and representation of Allah, because we wouldn't have the potential. We wouldn't have the isti'dad in order to carry out that mission of khilafat and representation if Allah didn't grant us those powers. So whenever I tell people this, right, people look at me like, this dude is crazy. And my family tells me, you're crazy. But it's okay. I know that there's a fine line between genius and crazy, and I'm just on this side of crazy. It's okay. Identity, know who you are, right? That's what we're talking about. Accept it. Huh? People look at you crazy when you say stuff like this. Every sifat that Allah has, we also have. Okay, so let me give you a real clear example to back it up with hadith. Khaliq. Allah is the creator. Huh? We also create. We also create. We build buildings. We have children. Now, none of this is dar'araz. We're not at the same level with Allah. But it is dartul. It is in the chain of fa'il, in the chain of active doers. We're in that chain. We're doers too. We're creators also. In fact, you have it in the Hadith al-Qudsi. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O my servant, obey me so that I might make you like me. It's so beautiful how Allah says it. O my servant, obey me so that I might make you like me. Aqulu kun fayakun wattaqulu kun fayakun. Allah says, O my servant, obey me so that I can make you like me. I say, kun fayakun. I say, be, and it is. And you can also say, be, and it is. Human beings have that power within them, even though we don't recognize it. The other day, somebody told me something, and I can sometimes have very bad reactions. I'm sure you've seen that before. Just on this side of crazy. Somebody told me, I'm tired of making dua and I don't see any result. Are you out of your mind? There's always a result. What do you mean? I'm tired of making dua and I don't see anything happen. I ought to choke you right here. Khafat mikonam. I've never made a dua and not seen a result. Now, you might not always like the result. Let's make this clear. Sometimes you say, Allah, give me this. And instead of give you something, He take it away. Something happened here. It's not that nothing happened. No, the thing you wanted to happen didn't happen. The thing you were expecting to happen didn't happen. But there's never a time that we make dua and nothing happens. That doesn't exist. It's impossible. Duas are accepted. Allah hears duas and accepts them. We don't always check and see what's happening. So I don't know if I told you guys this story before, but just from my own personal experience. Sometimes you say, Allah, make it clear what you want for me to do. Now we're thinking that Allah's going to send somebody special to write one big fat check. And here you go. This is what I want you to do. Sometimes Allah burns down your business. This can happen too. You say, Allah, show me what you want me to do. A business burned down. Oh, okay. So Allah didn't show me what He wanted me to do, but He showed me what He didn't want me to do. There's never a time that you make a dua and there's no response. We have powers that we haven't begun to tap into yet, haven't begun to understand yet. Allama Tabatabai says, perhaps Isma A'adham, the greatest name of Allah, is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Because with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, he says, human beings can move mountains and do the impossible. It's with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim that Musa split the ocean. It's with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim that Hazrat Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was able to bring back the sun. So even in this issue of the powers of human beings, we have to be able to represent Allah fully. And the only means by which that we can do that is if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants unto his representatives all of the powers and attributes that he himself also possesses. Send a salawat. I'm just looking at my notes here to make sure I don't leave anything out at this point, inshallah. So as far as this portion of our discussion, this discussion of khilafat, if there was nothing else in the Quran about shakhsiyat, if there was nothing else mentioned in the Quran about our identity, this verse would be enough. That Allah has chosen us to represent him in this world. I mean, I want you to understand what that means. A lot of people don't always realize we have an invisible God, right? You can't see him, touch him, smell him, nothing. Immaterial. But this immaterial God has to be made manifest. Has to be made known. Has to be introduced into this physical world. And I mean, there's certain limitations in this physical world. Like, why can't we see Allah? Because these eyes are designed to capture light that reflects off of physical objects. So that's how they work. The eyes cannot see immaterial things. So we can't see Allah here physically. We can't touch Allah here physically. We can't have that connection with Allah that like idolaters or but Parastan they have with their gods, right? But still we're supposed to manifest Allah here. Human beings are supposed to see Allah and the attributes of Allah through us. And this is a very high position that Allah has given to human beings. I want us to realize how much Allah respects us. And we should take that and respect ourselves and understand our own worth. The value that Allah has given to us, I mean, if people really recognized it and thought about it, reflected on it, meditated on it, Ya Allah, look at the maqam that you have given me, the position that you've given me as a human being, as a Muslim. Not just as a Muslim, but now as one of the khawas, as one of those special and intimate friends of Allah, the Shia of Ahl Bayt alayhim as-salam. This should inspire within the human being a gratefulness. Look at what Allah has given us. Just from this starting point, the identity that Allah has given us of khilafat, of representation. And I want you to recognize this too. It doesn't mean that just the mu'mineen are khulafa. They're the best manifestations of this. The believers are the best manifestations of this representation. But the non-Muslim is representing Allah here also. The urafa, the mystics, they reach a place in their spiritual development where everything they see is a reflection of Allah. They see the fingerprints, quote unquote, of Allah everywhere. And we should be like that also. Every human being is a Khalifatullah. Now, is he doing his job to his fullest? No. But he's still doing the job. This position of khilafat is such a high position. It should inspire within us, how can I explain it more than this? That need to give back. You know, real love is defined by that. There's one type of love that we can have, we'll use human love as an example, right? We can be attracted to each other, and now all I want to do is gain the love of that other person, right? So I'm striving to gain that love. So I might buy flowers or chocolate or candy or gifts or cards or vacations or hotels or whatever, right? We do whatever we got to do to gain the love of that person. We're seeking the love of that person, right? At what point does the love grow to such a situation where now we're comfortable in that love? We are loved. We know that we're loved. We've gained the love of that person. And now we've reached a stage where we want to return that love. This is real love. Maybe before that, where we're just seeking the love of the other person, maybe that's just interest, attraction. But when we reach a stage in that relationship where all we want to do is to return that love, to pay it back, to show that other person gratitude for that love, that's real love. Because that's what defines love, huh? Isn't that you just seek it and get it, but that you reciprocate also. That you give love back to those who love you. Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, Imam Sadiq said, if you love someone, he said, if you love someone, then tell them so. If you love someone, tell them you love them. It's important. Our parents, our loved ones, our siblings, community members, friends, it's important. We need to be loved, and that love has to be paid back. And we can't forget that. You know, on the day of Ashura, everyone was trying to gain the love, not just of Allah, but of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. On day of Ashura, everyone is striving to gain the love of Imam Hussein. So, as an example, you'll see Hazrat Hur flee from the ranks of the enemy. And when he gets to the camp of Imam Hussein, he throws himself at the feet of Hussein and says, Imam, is there forgiveness for people like me also? I want you to see how badly Hazrat Hur is seeking the love of Imam Hussein. Hur comes and says, Master, it's me who held you here. It's me who diverted you into the desert to Karbala. It's me who, because you gave myself and my troops and our animals all the water, that you had no water for yourself. Hur explains how guilty he is in the face of Imam Hussein. What he wants is, he wants to now gain the love of Imam Hussein. Each of the companions on the day of Ashura, this is what they were seeking. This is what they were looking for. They wanted the love of Imam Hussein. All of them except one person. There's one person on the day of Ashura that was not seeking the love of Imam Hussein. There's one person on the day of Ashura that all he wants to do is to reciprocate that love. This person knows that he's loved. This person loves Imam Hussein and knows that he's loved by Imam Hussein. Now all he wants to do is to give that love back, reciprocate that love, to show that love back. And as we said, this is the real love. The real love is when you can give love back. That's real love. So it's no surprise when on the day of Ashura, When Imam Hussein goes to Hazrat Abul Fadl al-Abbas and says, Abbas, my children are thirsty. Can you please go get some water for them? Abbas says, yes. Because all Abbas wants to do is to give back that love to Imam Hussein. Abbas is not interested in gaining the love of Hussein. He has that. Brothers and sisters, you and I have that. I want you to understand what I'm telling you. You're here tonight. You've been here in these nights. You were attending in the majalis of Imam Hussein. We have the love of Hussein. Now it's the time to be like Hazrat Abbas. It's time to pay that love back. What, we're just going to take love forever and not pay it back? So when Imam Hussein comes and says, Abbas, can you get some water for us? My children are thirsty. Abbas jumps at the opportunity, because in the mind of Abbas, it's an opportunity for him to repay the love, to reciprocate. This is an opportunity for Abbas. He's not looking at it as a risk. He's not viewing it as a danger. He's not seeing it as something that he might not come back from. Abbas sees this as an opportunity. Allahu Akbar. When Hazrat Abbas goes to the river Euphrat, he takes a direct route. In his coming back, he goes through the Nakhlistan. He goes through the date palm grove. Abbas, it's a longer way. Why didn't you go straight, Abbas? Why should you divert yourself and go through the Nakhlistan and go through the date palm grove? Why? Even though it's a longer distance, Abbas sees that he has precious cargo with him. He has that water for the children of Hussein. And so he cannot risk these water containers in the open. The trees will provide him some cover. Abbas, don't you know the enemy is laying in wait for you? These trees also give cover to the enemies of Abbas. And so they're able to hide behind this tree or that tree. As Abbas enters the Nakhlistan, his right arm is cut off, but he's able to get the water skins with his left. As he goes a little bit further, his left arm is cut off. But Abbas doesn't lose hope. His face is still bright. Abbas is still trying to pay back the love that has been given to him all his life by Imam Hussein. And so he urges his horse forward, holding these water skins in his teeth. When does Abbas give up? When does Abbas stop moving forward? When the water skins are punctured by arrows. It's now that Abbas stops moving. It's now that Abbas gives up. He realizes now he has nothing to give to his beloved. He feels that in no way can he now reciprocate this love. And so he stops going forward. I'll finish here. I want you to understand the feeling of Banin. You know, when this caravan went back to Medina, Banin saw the crowd gathered around the caravan, and she wanted some news of her son Abbas. So she goes forward and she puts herself through the crowd and she asks about her son Abbas. She says, where's my son Abbas? My Abbas who was brave and tall and strong. I don't see him in this caravan. Where is Abbas? They said, Auntie, Abbas was killed at Karbala. Banin looks at them and she says, what? My Abbas? Don't you know how brave he was? How powerful he was? There's no way that there was a man who could have attacked my son Abbas and overcome him. Who is this person? Haven't you seen the arms of my Abbas? How powerful they were? Who is able to overcome my Abbas? They said, Auntie, They struck Abbas in the head with an iron pole. Al-Banin says, never. How could such a thing happen? You know, they exaggerate about Hazrat Abbas. They'll tell you that Hazrat Abbas was so big and so powerful that when he sat on the horse, his feet would touch the ground. Or when he stood amongst other men, he towered above them. This is just to let you know what an imposing figure he was. What a powerful figure he was. Al-Banin cannot understand what's happened to her son. So she says, how was someone able to hit him in the head with an iron pole? They said, Auntie, he had no arms. He had no arms to defend himself. Al-Banin, not believing it, not accepting it, for a while after the tragedy at Karbala, she would leave Medina and go and sit at the intersection where the road runs from Iraq to Medina, and she would sit there waiting, believing in her heart of hearts that her Abbas, that powerful Qamar Bani Hashim, would return. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم ولعنة الله على قوم الظالمين آمين رب العالمين. مات محسن يا حسين
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Oh my Abbas, 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 bravest of us, Abbas, Abbas. Where is Abbas? Abbas, 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 Abbas. Oh my Abbas, 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 bravest of us. Where is Abbas? Abbas, 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 Abbas. Of words that are true, I say this of you. No brother on earth is truer than you. No more could you give, no more could you do. Abbas, 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 Abbas. Oh my Abbas, bravest of us. Where is Abbas? Abbas, 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 Abbas. This uncle of mine, so tall and so strong, will soon quench my thirst before long. They say he has died, but they must be wrong. Abbas, 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 Abbas. Of all those who love, their love is outdone by the love that you had for Fatima's son. From the day you were born, the blaze had begun. Abbas, 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 Abbas. Who else can claim that Imam Hussein? Who else can claim that Imam Hussein wanted no other and called out his name? My back is broken. Who else remains? Abbas, 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 Abbas. The legend still stands to speak of a man who charged like a lion and gave both his hands. You're watching the water, it pours on the sand. Abbas, 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 Abbas. Abbas. Don't tell me of heroes, there's only Abbas, protector of Hussein, the one Ali trusts. They cut him and stabbed him, but he's still with us. Abbas, 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 Abbas. Oh my Abbas, bravest of us. Where is Abbas? Abbas, Abbas, Abbas. Abbas, 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 Abbas. Ya Hussein, Hussein.
صلى على محمد وآل محمد. صلى الله عليه يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليه يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب. صلى الله عليه يا فاطمة الزهراء. السلام على الحسن والحسين. السلام عليك يا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين وعلى محمد بن علي وعلى جعفر بن محمد وعلى موسى بن جعفر وعلى علي بن موسى وعلى محمد بن علي وعلى علي بن محمد وعلى حسن بن علي وعلى حجة القائم المهدي. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة ورحمة الله وبركاته.